Hey, I'm Brianna Bowling, and I am the founder of Retreat and Learn, and I am so excited that everyone is here today with us. If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments, and they will be answered live while we're on the air. However, note that your name is going to show, so if you post a question, you are consenting to your name being shown. I am going to ask for your help today. I'm trying to bring all types of learning topics to you, but I need you to subscribe to either my YouTube channel or follow me on Facebook so that people know about it. So do it now and then tell your friends. And if you go to retreatandlearn.com, you can also learn about our in-person events. So that's pretty important too. So today's topic is sex. And in particular, sex after you're 40, 50, 60, 70, and beyond, wherever you want to be having sex. And sex ed is a difficult topic, which is why I'm bringing it to you today. I know that back in middle school, you probably had sex ed, and you listened because it was super interesting at the time. But let's be honest, what you learned about was how not to get pregnant and how not to get an STD. You did not learn about how to make sex great and how you want to have sex. And so you have questions now as adults, but even as adults, I can tell you that when I told people, my friends, that I was going to be doing a talk about sex, the result was people looking down, not making eye contact, and going, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're going to discuss that. So even as adults, it's a tough topic, but it's an important topic. And so I'm really excited to bring this to you today. Yesterday, I put up a poll and I let people ask questions anonymously. And anybody who posted a question, I'm so proud of all of you because you posted some really great questions. And it's proof that this is a needed topic. So with that said, today, my guest is Raylene Toskoski. And Raylene has spoken to over 10,000 women over the past decade about their sex life. She's the host of the podcast and the live show, Stand-Up Comedy Sex Ed. And she also has an upcoming TED Talk, which I'm super jealous about because that would be so cool to be able to do. So with that said, welcome, Raylene.
Hi.
Hi. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be so much fun.
So happy you invited me.
Yeah, I talked to you a couple weeks ago, and we had such a great time just talking about doing this. And it's such a fun topic, really. So I'm really excited to be here. So I guess the first question is, how did you become the host of Stand-Up Comedy Sex Ed?
So I have been in direct sales for 13 years in an in-home party setting, selling adult novelty products. And over the course of those 13 years, people would say to me all the time, you have to do stand-up comedy. You're so funny. You have to do stand-up comedy. And I would always just say, no, I don't think that's for me. And then I had a business coach one time and she said, what's your favorite part of the party? And I said, my favorite part of the party is when they're laughing so hard, they can't breathe. They're peeing their pants. They're getting migraines. And she's like, oh, so you're a masochist. And I'm like, okay, maybe. Right? She says, what about the shopping room? And I said, no, that's where I get them the products that they need to take home. But if I could just like mic drop after the funny part and leave, that would be ideal for me. And she says, well, then you need to go ahead and do stand-up comedy. So, well, first I said, no, I was not going to do that. And she said, well, you paid me a boatload of money to be your coach. So you're going to do what I say to do or not? And I'm like, fine. So I went and I found an open mic and I brought my phone and I went Facebook Live because I said, all right, fine. I'm just going to prove to everybody that I do not belong on a stage. And by the time I got home, I had 1,200 views. It had been shared like 50 times. And by the end of the week, I had 7,500 views and I had been booked on 2 comedy shows for my very first 5-minute open mic.
That's amazing.
I was like, this is crazy. But if you know anybody who does comedy, one thing that you will learn is that comedy doesn't pay like anything unless you're famous. But selling sex toys pays very, very well. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick to my thing. And every now and then somebody would call and be like, hey, do you want to be on my show? And I'd be like, yes, I will be on your show. But it wasn't a big thing. And I was also less comfortable on a regular stage than I was at a party. And one night I did a show and it was a good show and it was good. I recorded it and I listened to it. I'm like, this was a good show. But the next night I went and did a party and I was in my element. Like I knew I was where I was supposed to be. I was educating everybody. We were all laughing. It was a great time. And I said, why do I not get that same feeling when I'm on stage as I do when I'm doing a party? And a couple months later, I was having trouble sleeping and I woke up in the middle of the night. And I have this rule that if I'm not going to sleep for more than like half an hour, I will just get up because there's no point in just laying in bed doing nothing. And I grabbed the book, You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. And I took it to the living room and I turned on my light and I opened the book and it was like the entire universe and God and everything in it just went, ah. And I said, okay. And it said, why don't you combine the two things that you love, which is stand-up comedy and doing sex ed, into one thing? And I had purchased the domain Stand Up Comedy Sex Ed like 5 years earlier and I had just parked it. And all of a sudden I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take the comedy stuff that I love doing because it's a tiny bit more risque than what I would do at the party level and mix it with the information. And then I didn't have to do the sales room because I was getting paid to be on stage. It's like people were buying a ticket. So then I was already making my money. And then I would just send them the website to buy their products. So I didn't have to do the shopping room and yada, yada, yada. And it worked out really, really well until COVID hit.
So, but one of the things that you mentioned when we were talking was that after the parties, a lot of times people would send you a message, private message after the party, or they would kind of on the side say, hey, Raylene, I mean, this is all great. It was great information you gave tonight at the party, but I have this problem. And so, you've talked to these 10,000 women at these parties and they've given you a lot of information about their private lives. And I think that's probably where a lot of your information came from. Is that true?
Yes. So
okay.
That's the TED Talk.
Okay.
So at one point, I just knew I wanted to do a TED Talk, but I didn't know what on. And then also the same thing with the universe. It's like, well, what do you know? I know sex. I know stories. I know things that people need to know. And so one day I just sat down in front of my computer and I pounded out 7 single-spaced pages of conversations that I had actually had with women. Usually after the party, they would call me up and they would thank me for making a difference. And really what it was just having the conversation, just doing kind of what we're doing now, just answering questions so that people would understand that they're normal.
They are normal.
Yeah. So now I do the talk, which is a serious, more serious, has some comedy in it, but it's mostly the serious value of open, honest discussions about women's sexual health. That's the TED Talk. That's the keynote. And then I also have the Stand-Up Comedy Sex Ed, which is a combination of a comedy show, adult sex ed, and an adult toy party all at once.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of focused on, it's girlfriends, but it's also couples because it gives couples something to talk about on the way home.
Okay.
Like, well, what did you think about what she said about this? Which is my TED Talk is really aimed towards the women to say, hey, these are the things that other people are asking about, and these are the things that make you normal.
Got it. So yesterday when I posted the poll, one of the things that I said to people when I posted it is that there really are no dumb questions. That if you have a question, if you're thinking it, likely there's someone else who has the exact same question. And that proved to be true because I gave the ability on that poll to do upvotes. So as people posted questions, lo and behold, other people were saying, hey, I have that same problem too. And so we're going to get into like some of these questions now. And I'm going to jump right on into one of the top voted question that was out there that was up-ranked. And it was, starting in my 40s, I didn't get as wet when having sex and it started to hurt. So what can I do? Is this just the way it is when I get old?
The easy, fast answer is yes, that is just the way it is. As we get older, we have decreased lubrication, the vaginal walls get thinner because we're preparing for menopause and we're prepared to go into that crone phase of our life where we're not childbearing age anymore. But the solution is lubricant. And I think every woman should have lubricant on hand, because even in the course of a regular cycle, you're going to have days that you are wetter, and you're going to have days that you are drier. And there's also a bazillion medications out there that affect our body's natural ability to lubricate. So antidepressants, birth control pills, heart and blood pressure medications, antihistamines, all of these things, plus others, really affect our body's ability to lubricate. And so a good lubricant on hand is very handy. 72% of women say adding a good water-based lubricant to their natural moisture increases their pleasure.
Okay. And is there any particular kind, or is there a range of types, or is one kind of lubricant better for some women and other?
Well, I have to go with my own personal, because obviously I sell these products.
Sure. Okay. All right. So leaving that, the type of lubricant.
Yeah. Well, you want a good water-based lubricant that doesn't get between you and your partner. And so I have a funny story about, so I was just about that age. I was in my 40s, and I was talking to women at parties all the time, and they're like, yes, I'm having problems with vaginal lubrication. And what do I do? And I was just thinking to myself, I don't have that problem. Like, I thought shouldn't this be happening to me by now? And one morning, my husband and I have a thing, like, if we wake up together, we make the bed together, but whoever gets out last, if the other one has already left for work, you're responsible to make the bed, right? So one morning I get up way after him, because hello, self-employed. And I go to make the bed, and I see on the other side of this huge stack of comic books, right? And they're not graphic novels. They're literally comic books. They're like Scrooge McDuck. He loves his McDuck comic books. There's a half empty bottle of the Just Like Me lubricant. I see it. I see the bottle. I'm like, why is there a bottle of Just Like Me over here? And then I pick it up, I hold it to the light. It's half empty. And I'm like, what the hell? Why is there a bottle of lubricant? So I text my husband, and I'm like, why is there a half empty bottle of Just Like Me on your side of the bed? Right? Because I'm like, this some bitch been lying to me about masturbating for a while, right? And he says, because we use it like every time. We've been using it for a year and a half. And I was,
does that mean that you weren't aware you were using it?
I had no idea.
Okay.
No idea. And that's like we're both old enough to remember, like, Brooke Shields and her Nothing Gets Between Me and My Calvins.
Yeah.
That's how I want my lubricant to be. Like, I want it to feel like it is not there. So the Just Like Me lubricant from Pure Romance, which is the company that I work for, is odorless, colorless, flavorless, tasteless, pH balanced, non-staining, re-wetting, FDA cleared for use with condoms, gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free, and it has no Weight Watchers points. There is no downside to this lubricant.
Got it. So, but if somebody can't get to a pure, I can't talk tonight, Pure Romance party, any water-based lubricant, are they all about the same, or is there different types?
It depends. Well, what I like about ours is it re-wets. So you can put it on ahead of time. Like, if you're having a hot date night, you can put it in, and then it'll re-wet with your natural moisture. It's also not gummy at all. It's like a lot of lubricants will get sticky, turn into nasty little pill balls after a while. Okay. So this one is just highly recommended by me and pretty much everybody I've ever sold it to. Another, if you're more health conscious, a lot of people like to use coconut oil, but I would
just go in there. I was going to ask you that.
If you're going to use coconut oil, use MCT oil, which is the medium chain triglycerides. It's the coconut oil without the solids in it.
Okay.
It's literally what people put in their bulletproof coffee.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I had listened to one of your podcasts earlier this week, and you had mentioned that on there, and I was going to get there. So that's all great information. Which, by the way, I'm going to remind people who have logged in since then, if you have any questions, you can still post them in the comments. However, your name will be shown. So that is, something I will try to take a look at the poll, but I don't think I'm going to probably do so. All right, here's the next question. And it's along the same lines, but there's also some extra on this. I've had a hysterectomy and both ovaries removed 10 years ago. How do I deal with vaginal dryness and low libido with no hormones?
Ooh. Well, my first option is to tell you to check with your doctor, but I don't know, is that where the hormones are coming from, or is it that you don't have hormones because of the surgery? But I did have a woman once upon a time, and she said that she hadn't had an orgasm since she had her hysterectomy, which was about 5 years earlier. And I was like, you need to get back to your doctor, because you should still be able to orgasm. If you just don't want to take the hormone replacement, you're for certain going to need lubricant anyway. So always get a good lubricant. And there are arousal creams that'll help stimulate the blood flow to the area. There's also a lot of more foreplay that will be needed. So there should be more massage. You might need, a naughty book, or if you're into porn. I'm personally not into porn, but I will read a naughty book like nobody's business.
So it sounds like it's really a conversation. I mean, like maybe whoever her partner is, whether it's a man or a woman, that they need to have a conversation with their partner about this, and that maybe they need something more foreplay.
Right.
To get it going.
Do they still want to have sex? I mean,
right.
Yeah, because now your libido is going to be permanently changed. But I would start with the doctor and see if there's anything there, unless that was the point of the question, that they don't want that. In which case, arousal creams, foreplay, lubricant.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it sounds like they would wish that they still had the libido. And, and my thought, I'm wondering, if the vaginal dryness disappeared and sex wasn't painful, then perhaps maybe their libido would improve as well.
Right. That is a huge issue. I had a woman at one of my parties, and we had talked about the lubrication, and she was doing the same thing. She was going through menopause. There was vaginal dryness. Sex was starting to hurt. And then she was avoiding all intimacy with her partner. Like, she didn't want to hold hands. She didn't want to go on a walk. She didn't want to go to date night. She didn't want to have a drink with him because she thought no matter what, it was going to lead to sex. Sex was going to be painful. And then she called me up after the party, and she's like, okay, I need 2 more bottles of that lube.
Why would you want to repeat something that doesn't feel good?
Right.
But you do want to repeat something that feels good.
Exactly. But she was calling because she wanted one for her mom and one for her sister. At this point, she was just like, everybody needs lube. And I'm like, yes.
She wants to share.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you told me, I think you're the one who told me the story about the, well, maybe you're not supposed to tell that story. I'll leave it alone. I don't know when you're supposed to tell stories. The garage door opener?
Oh, yes. Yep. Yes.
Are you allowed to tell that story?
Yeah, that one was, she was a little bit older, and it was the same thing. I love to talk about lubrication because seriously, we just do not talk about it enough. I think at some point, somebody broke us and made us feel like if we needed lubrication, there was something wrong with us. Instead of just
wrong
saying,
with our partner, like our partner wasn't able to satisfy us because we need this extra lubrication. And that's not the case at all. This is
there was an MMA female
scientific
fighter.
reason for this.
Right. An MMA female fighter said publicly, if you needed lubrication, there was something wrong with your partner. And I was like, bitch, I don't know how to MMA fight, but I will take you out for that. Like, she just messed up so many people.
Right.
And I was like, I cannot wait for you to take a medication or, having hormone flux and just,
yeah.
I was so mad after that.
It's okay. So we're here. We're going to counteract what she did. Yes. So we're okay.
So this woman had a birthday, and she wouldn't talk to me about my products at all. She was like, that's not for me. I don't need any of this, the same blah, blah, blah that everybody does to me. So I snuck in a Just Like Me lubricant into her birthday bag. And a couple of weeks later, we went out to dinner with our partners, and we're in the bathroom. I'm like, so what'd you think of your birthday bag? And she goes, my husband, he calls that lubricant the garage door opener.
I love that. I think that's a great term for it. That's fun.
It is. It just keeps it slippery. I mean, it's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, that is good. Well, that actually brings me to my next question. I'm probably going to skip around on these, and hopefully I remember which ones I've asked. But I think it kind of goes along the same lines. But there was a question about how do I approach my husband about spicing it up in the bedroom? And I think that's probably a 2-part question, but I'm going to ask it the way they asked, but then I'm also going to add something to it that we should. So how do I approach my husband about spicing it up in the bedroom? Our routine is boring, but I don't want to hurt his feelings. And, I think that's a valid question. I mean, sex is a very sensitive subject. I mean, you don't want your partner who is doing the best he can, or she's doing the best that she can in terms of trying to please you. You don't want to knock that down. So what are some ways that they can approach that and maybe try to spice it up a little bit, especially with a partner you've been with for 10, 20, 30, 40 years?
Well, one thing that I have heard is that when someone is in a new relationship, they will do things with their new partner they would never do with their old partner because they didn't think their old partner was interested. But we all know that good sex keeps marriages together.
Do you mean that they wouldn't initiate it, or
they
that
wouldn't initiate it, or they wouldn't do it, or they were just embarrassed because they'd been together for so long at a certain, and it just was uncomfortable. Whereas the new partner, they got more excited because they were just like, oh, I've been in this sex rut for so long. I want to just spice it up. So one of the reasons that we wind up doing it the same way every time is it's because this is my thing. If you put a mouse in a box and you tell him how to get to the cheese, he's going to get to the cheese as fast as possible. So when you first put him into the box, he's going to run around, he's going to try new things, and eventually he'll find the cheese. And so each time it's going to take him less time to find the cheese. And then after a while, he's like, boom, right to the cheese. Right. So that's the same thing that happens with our sex. In the beginning, we're like, ooh, let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do that. And then as time constraints come on, or as we're just tired because we've got kids or we're older, we're like, boom, let's get to the cheese. And then we just get used to it. Just, mouse the cheese. And in case anybody's missing it, the cheese is the orgasm in this case.
Yeah, I caught on, but maybe not.
I just wanted to make it clear. So what now, I cover this in my stand-up comedy sex ed. I say you need 4 things. You need a shot of tequila, a blindfold, a pair of handcuffs, and a tickle and a whip. Right? You maybe don't need a tickle and a whip. So it's a tickle on one side and it's a little whip on the other side.
Okay.
But the key is you give him the shot of tequila, and then you say, if you put this blindfold on and hold your hands out, I'm going to put my boobies right in your hands. And he's going to go, boobies, right? And then he's going to play with them. He's going to motorboat them, and he's going to milk them, like whatever gets him excited. And then you take the handcuffs and you click them on. And then grab the center because he's going to flail around like the bass at the end of the hook for a couple of seconds. And then you take your tickle whip and you take the feather and you go, shh, I got you. I got you. It's okay. Right? And then you lay him back. So that's just it. And then you take the whip part, and then he's like, oh, I really like that. And you just take the whip and you're like, bam, I did not say you could talk. Right? It's much funnier if I'm standing up and I've got my whip. But you can, get a catalog from any company that you have around. Get a sex toy catalog and leave it in the bathroom with a marker and say, circle the things that you're interested in. And then you circle the things you're interested in first, and then give it to your partner and let your partner circle the things that they're interested in. And then the things that you agree on, try something new, or bring home a blindfold, or bring home a tickle and whip. Or one thing my husband and I are good for is I'll slide stuff under his pillow that I'm interested in playing with. And then he finds it, and then he's like, ooh, look what I found. I'm like, where did you find that? Right?
So 2 follow-ups on that then. Okay, so one, what if, that's just so outside of their norm. They have had some people have had sex the same way every single time for the last 10 years. And even the thought of a catalog or any other apparatus in the bed is just insane. So,
right.
That's leaving a catalog of toys in the bathroom might be kind of pushing the limits. Do you have any suggestions on kind of, I guess, a smaller step to get there to discuss this?
A step smaller than not speaking to each other and just sliding a catalog into the.
I do think that, I think for some people it is probably, that might be, you and I are pretty forthright, honest people. I don't know that that's true for everybody. And so I think it might be, how do they bring that up? I think, they might think they leave that catalog in their spouse's bathroom and their spouse might leave them. That might be an honest to do thought that they're thinking. So
good Lord.
It happens, So,
I would fear, honestly, I would fear for the marriage if the thought of asking to change things up a little leads to the end of it.
I don't know that it really would. What I do think is that I think that for some people, it might be uncomfortable to even bring that up. And
it's going to be uncomfortable.
It's going to rock the boat of their marriage. And maybe people don't want to have that boat rocked too much. They kind of want to eat it too. They want the better sex, but they don't want to rock that marriage boat.
what if the other partner's thinking the same thing and they're just not talking?
I agree. I mean, it's
You
true.
could also get a sexy card deck from anywhere.
What's a sexy card deck?
Well, they'll have conversations or positions or sexy dice. Like anything that you bring home, however subtly, is going to send the message. But you could also, like when you're beginning to make love next time, be like, "Hey, want to try something new?" But have an idea. Like have an idea.
Right. Okay.
Right. So or just try something new.
Right. What are sexy dice too? Describe what those are.
They're dice that'll like say where to do something or what body part to do and what to do to that body part.
Okay. All right.
I like our dice because, or we don't have them anymore, but we used to have dice and they came with 18 stickers. So you could choose what you wanted on your dice. Like you could take off.
Everything's for everybody.
Right. Okay. Or I mean, play strip Yahtzee or, you know, massage each other. You have to open up the conversation. And I think if your partner, if you want to have sex with your partner, there's a really good chance that your partner wants to have sex with you. And so just say, want to try something new, or make it obvious, bring home something new. So when I first started selling the products, I didn't have anything. We didn't own anything when I started. There was no toys, no lubes, no heighteners, no cleaners, no lingerie, no nothing. And then all of a sudden I'm selling this product. And it was still probably a year and a half before I brought anything into our bedroom from our catalog. And it was just like, I walked in and I was like, I like this. And I handed it to him. And that was it. And that, you know, it was up to him to figure out how to use it or what to do with it or whatnot. So you can start with something as simple as a blindfold and just do a massage with a blindfold on. You to your partner, your partner to you. And that's very simple. Just make sure you don't mix your sexy time mask and your sleep mask up. Like make sure one of them says something.
Yeah, and one thing I really kind of do want to make clear too is that, you know, while I think items in the bedroom are great for some people, they're not for everybody, and that's okay too. Really, truly, whatever makes the two people who are having intimacy together is okay. Like It's perfectly fine. It's what's important is it works for the two of you.
Well, it sounds like this isn't working for her.
No, I would say that in this case, this is not working for her. But I do want to make that clear, just for anybody else who's going, I don't really want to bring things into the bedroom. Well, then that's fine too. It really is perfectly fine.
That's the basis of everything that I talk about, because the people who say I don't need that don't know what it is that they're missing. They don't know. They don't know. Right. Because I didn't need anything. I didn't want anything. I actually said the first time I went to a party, I was like, I don't use that stuff. And look at me now. Like,
yeah, that's
number
true.
one salespeople in a comedy show. It's like I tell people, you don't need cake either. Cake is not necessary ever.
Right.
But I mean, try a little cake. You might like it.
Yep, that is true. All right, let me see what else questions do we have here. Well, this one kind of goes along the same route here. And so they indicate that they are a female, seem to have a higher sex drive than my husband. How can I stop feeling guilty or feeling needy for wanting sex more often than he does?
Well, literally every single person in the world has a different sex drive than any other person next to them. So possibly one solution is to just take care of yourself when you're in the mood and your partner is not. It's ideal if you've got two people who have the exact same sex drive, you know, either all the time or none of the time or part of the time. But the reality is that's not very common. Someone is always a little bit more game to go than anyone else. I would also check what's his medication list, because a lot of and was that normal before, or has it changed? Because medications will affect men's libido as well. But just take care of yourself on the times that he's not interested. I've always said I could live without sex, but I can't live without orgasms. And so,
right. Yeah, I guess, you know, they don't work as well if you don't keep using them.
Right. And there's sometimes I don't know why and I was never this way before, but as I got older, sometimes I just want an orgasm. But I have this weird 48-hour reset, so I have to be careful. I'm like, okay, so it's been 3 days. I don't know when we're going to have sex again. But there was one time we went like a ridiculously long time without having sex. Like it was probably 3 weeks or something. And I like messaged him like, we're going to have sex soon, or can I just rub one off? Like,
right. You just let me know. Communication. I mean, and I think that's kind of the theme that's running through this is the communication is pretty darn important.
yeah.
And the more you do it, the better that gets too. So I think opening that door of communication and, maybe watching this video is a great way to open this conversation. Hey, I saw this really cool video and they talked about a lot of interesting topics. Want to watch it with me?
We had, so we've got, sorry, my middle daughter and my youngest daughter are both home now because of COVID. And one of them works from home and the other one does not, but that's the older one. And her bedroom is right next to our bedroom. Mm-hmm. And like, so it's been 3 weeks. Right. And I'm just like, okay, I'm at my limit now. So I literally texted him this afternoon. I'm like, want a sex?
Right.
He's like,
make a date.
He's like, I'm on a call. I'm like, let me know when you're done. And like 5 minutes later, he's like, I'm done. So we ran into the bedroom and very quietly took care of some issues.
Yeah, I thought you looked nice today. All good. There was another part of that question though. And actually that's funny because I know when I was telling one of my friends about this, and I can't think of who it was, so I won't call out your name, but, and they said, oh, I don't need to listen to that. I don't have a partner. And I said, well, you don't necessarily need a partner to have sex. So watch it anyways. Yeah. So
I have another story about a woman. She had gotten a divorce right before the birth of her last child. And it had been about 4.5 years. And she called me up. She said, I need an internal vibrator. She goes, I just came home from the OBGYN. And she said, if I did not start using something internally, I was going to have a vaginal prolapse and lose the use of my vagina. And she was 35. And so her doctor was like, you need to put something in there. And I was like, okay, come on over.
Right. I can fix that problem.
I can fix that.
So the next question actually has a lot to do with our last question. And these are actually just kind of going along in a nice little path here. How often is normal to have sex when you've been with someone for a very long time?
Okay. Well, let me just say this. My husband and I have been doing it bi-weekly since we met. All right. Now, back in the day, that was twice a week. And now it's twice a month. So
bi-weekly.
It's bi-weekly. Either way.
Right.
It depends on just you guys. If you're both happy with where you are, there is no reason to change it. And sometimes we'll have a period where we have sex 3 times in 1 week, and then we won't have it again for 3 weeks. And it's just whatever's working for you and your partner. There is no normal. There is no standard. There's no benchmark that you have to reach. If you and your partner are happy, then you and your partner are happy, and don't look at other people's relationships. Because I've seen a lot of people who would talk about how often they had sex all the time and then wind up divorced.
Right.
Because that was just cover.
Awesome. That's excellent advice. And that, if it works for you, then that's what works.
Right. So don't compare yourself to anybody else.
Right. That's great.
If you and your partner are happy with what you've got, then you are happy. I talked to a girl the other day during one of my podcasts, and she was just like, yeah, we do it, every day, sometimes twice a day. And he takes 45 minutes. And I was like, that sounds horrible, right? That's not what I want. Right? And so everybody has different needs and different wants. And if you and your partner are happy, then don't stress about it. If you're not happy, then send them a text that says want a sex.
That's great. Yeah. People talk about putting it in their calendar and, hey, Wednesday at 7:00 is our time. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If that's what's working for you and your couple, your spouse or your partner or whoever it happens to be, then great. That's really great. So,
well, for a long time for us, it was Thursday afternoons because it was the day that he would work from home and then we would take a nap. And so then like today, I think that's probably why, because today is a Thursday. I was like, it's been like 3 Thursdays. Can we just get this going on? And then maybe one other day a week. But yeah, right. So if you're happy, then there is no standard.
Bravo to that. All right. We have one more question, actually two more questions. And is it normal? This is a fun question, actually. And I think it's a really cool question. And it is in quotations. Is it normal to have vivid sexual fantasies about other people or exes, even if you are in a happy, stable marriage? And I love this question. So whoever did it, bravo to you.
Here's what I thought when I first saw that. And I'm like, okay, well, if the world was just me and you, girl, who wrote the question, or man who wrote the question, then it would be 100% of people who do that, right? So if it was just me and you, we're at 100% right there. Right. I think it's a lot more normal than people think about or talk about. We are an ADD nation. There's always a ton of shit going on. And yes, there are going to be times that you are making love with your partner, breath to breath, face to face. It's, like into each other. And there are times where you and your partner are giving each other an orgasm. Yep. And your brain will go in other places. Now, to be fair, I try very hard. I won't say it's never happened, but I never fantasize about anybody I actually know because that would be awkward.
But you can control it sometimes, right? I mean, you have
I'll repurpose.
Okay, got it.
It's funny because it's like in my brain, I have a little deck of cards and I'm like, ooh, which one am I going to tonight?
But again, that's normal for you. But for whoever asked this question, if they happen to be, having fantasies about their neighbor next door, I think that's okay as long as, they're not going next door.
Right. Literally. That's true. Yeah, literally. But yeah, I think people have vivid, I think that's just part of it. It's part. I would. Yeah, I don't think I would ever ask my husband who he's thinking about while we're having sex. I don't.
Yeah, okay.
I want to know.
Yeah, maybe it's best to keep some of that to yourself. Yeah. Some things are best kept quiet. Yeah.
And I will add on to that because a lot of people think that if you're using it as a sexual fantasy, it's something that you want to do, and that is not true. Sometimes, I fantasize about a lot of things that I absolutely have zero interest in ever doing, but the thought of it is sexy.
Yeah. Well, it's probably more sexy because you won't do it. That actually probably adds to it. So I think,
I'm just not at all interested in some things, but I don't mind fantasizing about it. So
it makes it a fantasy. It's all good.
And so I would say, as long as it's a fantasy. And for me, like I said, I won't pick anybody because I did once, and it's been awkward for me to ever bump into him anywhere. Right?
Okay. So this has been a really good fantasy.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe, switching out the person. Don't make it about somebody that you really know because it gets awkward. But I absolutely sex fantasies when people are making love, whether, at least, like I said, if it's just me and the person who asks a question, that's 100% of the people right there. So at least you're not alone.
Oh, no, that one got upvoted. So we're good. I think they're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. So it's pretty normal.
Right. I think all these questions are normal.
So the guys, they put it in their spank bank, like the Hobbit loves a spank bank.
No, I don't know what that is. What's a spank bank?
It's where you go when you're masturbating, to let your brain.
Oh, okay. Right? Sorry. Didn't know the term.
So for a female, it's called a flick file.
Okay. I'm learning all kinds of stuff tonight. I didn't know.
I made up flick file, by the way. That one's mine, but the spank bank's been a while. Yeah, you see things, you're like, ooh, that'll be something nice to fantasize, and you just store it back in the back of your head some more. In a movie, you see something, and you're like, I don't have time to think about it right now, but I'm going to store that back there, and I'm going to think about it later.
Need it later. That's good.
And then text your partner and be like, want to sex.
All right. I like that I've learned some new terms. This is fun.
Yeah. Spank bank and the flick file.
All right. I think we have one more question, and then I have one for you that I think that I just want to know. So the last question was, and I don't know if you're going to have the answer to this because this is probably more of a medical question, but I definitely want to ask it because it was asked, and it is a very normal question to ask. Is they're looking for tips for pelvic floor health to combat painful intercourse.
So there's two things. First of all, I would suggest checking with your OBGYN first. And then maybe look into pelvic floor massage. There is a lot of, I just did a podcast, and I think it's one of the ones that you just listened to.
It is.
Where when women do Kegels, they're often doing them wrong, and they are strengthening their bad muscles and weakening their good muscles. because of the way they're clenching. So if you see a pelvic floor massage therapist, they physically go in and massage you on all four walls and help you figure out how to, work with those muscles and to strengthen those muscles. I also just listened to a podcast a couple weeks ago with a woman who had really tight, painful, burning sex. It was normal at first, and then it just started getting worse. And it turned out it was her birth control pill that was causing the issue.
Okay.
And I really wish I could find the episode again because it was so good. But check into what medications you might be on that might be causing it. But certainly talk to your doctor. And if your doctor doesn't take you seriously, find another doctor.
Right. And lubrication might help.
Lubrication might help.
It helps a lot.
Step one, lubricate.
Lubrication.
It's the KISS method. Keep it slippery, stupid.
Like it. Let's see. I think I have one question. I just want to make sure that was all the questions. I don't want to leave anybody out. I hope it was. If I left anybody out, I'm really sorry, but I think I hit them all. So I guess the last question I just have for you, and maybe you've already answered this, but what is the single most common question that you've received after a party or on a message afterwards?
Well, I don't get the questions afterwards. I get the thank yous afterwards.
Okay. So more, occasionally, like, what is the question that you get in terms of, hey, how can I solve this problem?
It's almost always lube related. Almost
Okay.
always. Sometimes it's arousal related, and a lot of times it's related to their medications. Again, we're back to heart and blood pressure medications, birth control pills, antidepressants, antihistamines. All of those things affect our body's natural ability to lubricate, and they can also affect our bodies to get aroused and can inhibit having orgasms, especially antidepressants.
Okay.
And so I get a lot of people, and they're just like, I don't enjoy sex, or it doesn't feel good, or I just don't want to. And I'm like, what medications are you on? And it comes back to, a lot of times it has to do with medications.
So they can't get off the medication. So is it just lubricate and maybe switch up the medications? Talk to your doctor about that.
It's lubricate, arousal creams, and foreplay. Foreplay. But when we're talking about antidepressants and things like that, they're literally designed to keep you from getting excited.
That's true, right?
So now you're trying to get excited, you have to override it. And you have to have a very patient partner that's willing to wait for you to get to that level, because you can get to that level, but it's a lot of work. And so what happens is, a lot of times women who are on antidepressants, they just fake it to be done because they don't want it to take a while, because it will take a while if you're on most antidepressants. So a lot of the questions, I think the one thing that I love when I was doing parties is people would say, and they would say it all the time, are you looking at my bedroom window? And I would say, no, I'm giving you a look into everybody's bedroom window.
Yeah.
And then I do want to finally say that when we're talking about normal, with the very rare exception, and I promise you it's not you, almost everything is normal. Because, like when I said 72% of women saying a good water-based lubricant added to their moisture, that's 72% of a billion women, which means 28% of a billion women don't need it, right? So we're still talking massive numbers of people, whether we're talking about,
right,
and like when we're talking about percentages of women who use bedroom accessories, 65% will use bedroom accessories, 45% won't. We're talking about millions of women on both sides of the spectrum. And so, men. Right.
Yes, both. I mean, to be clear, they're both sides of that, are both sides of those spectrums.
Right. It's so you're always most likely going to be normal.
Right.
Right. I mean, like I said, there was the one woman that I just talked to said she likes to do it every single day, and it takes 45 minutes to 2 hours, and they do it, and they're super excited. And then here's me. I like to do it like 2 to 3 times a month. It takes 9 minutes, and that's all I'm interested in. And in between is a massive number of women and men.
Sure.
It's a big range. And so everybody is slightly different.
Right.
So
I think that's a great takeaway, and that, we're all normal. We're all going to be different. And thank goodness we're all different in every spectrum of our life, because that's what
exactly.
makes the world interesting. And, that's great. So is
And
there anything that you would like to add? Besides, at the end, I also would like to know how people can reach you for all of your different services that you're offering, both, the parties and also the Sex Ed Comedy Hour. But is there anything else in terms of questions or anything else that you think that we should cover today?
I thought about this. I think I would like to do a little show and tell, because this also helps women.
Okay.
All right. Everybody think, how big is a clitoris? Like, not necessarily yours, but in general, how big do you think your clitoris is?
I don't know. Handful of peas. I don't know. I'm making a guess.
That's what everybody does. But this is for the people who are watching at home.
Okay, here.
And they're like, it's this big.
Right.
This is a clitoris. It is maybe slightly larger than average, but
wait a minute, that whole thing?
The whole thing.
What part's sticking out?
And this bit here is the part that sticks out. This is where the hood is, covers it up.
Yeah.
Right? And the rest of this is all inside of our body. All right. So this is where your labia is. This is all vulva. This whole thing is vulva. And then this is where your labia is. Your ureter is right here. And then this is the entrance to the vagina.
Got it.
All right.
Okay. I'm following along now. Yeah.
And then this is kind of more towards the outside, sort of towards your inner thigh. But this whole thing swells up when we get aroused.
Including those the leg parts, I guess.
Yes. This is why sometimes if your partner's down there and you're like, whoa, stop it, like back off, give me a second. And then he touches you and you're like, ah, and he's like, I'm not touching you. Like, you're still touching me. Right? It's because these legs go around. Okay. Now, these bulbs here, this is what swells up under your labia and under your vulva, which is why the whole area gets puffy. And this is the only part we have on the outside. So guys, their whole penis is on the outside. You can touch it, you can rub it, you can blow on it, you can flick it, you can do whatever you want to it. Squeeze it, put a sleeve on it. All we have is this on the outside. This is why we need the foreplay, right? Because that's all you're working with. And if all you do is go like this, you're just going to hurt us, because this is very sensitive. There's 8,000 nerve endings right here. Right? So once you understand how big and how vast your clitoris is, the more you're going to understand why you need foreplay. Because the only way.
So is the rest of it arousable? Or
yes.
Is it? Okay.
All the blood flow. So basically, when you're not aroused, picture this as just an empty balloon.
Right.
And then when you are aroused, the blood flow goes in and this whole thing swells up. You can tell that when your vulva is swollen from arousal, a lot of it is this. It's all this area underneath that's swollen. The more aroused this is, the longer and stronger your orgasms are going to be.
Got it.
So it makes it, when you see it, all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, now it makes sense.
So is time the answer there? Just spend more time?
Yep. Or get aroused. Yeah, it's time. It's how fast you get aroused, and where your brain is, where your body is. If you're thinking, I haven't taken a shower in 3 days, do I stink? It's going to take you a little while longer to get aroused. If you're super pissed at your husband because he brought home the wrong chocolate milk, your partner, sorry. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get aroused. If your partner hits you in the exact, and clitorises have a favorite side, a right side or a left side. They have a spot. Everybody knows that there's a spot. Like, if you're by yourself, you can find that spot in a hurry. Right. If you're right on that spot, then it'll fill up faster. But that whole thing needs to be aroused for us to have a really good orgasm.
Got it.
That's why foreplay is so important.
All right. And length of foreplay. Time.
Right.
Time is a key. Well, I guess lubrication, time, communication. Yeah. Let's see, what else have we talked about today? Yeah. We're going to do some things here.
Don't be afraid to say, little to the left.
Right.
Right. This is why you got to come to my comedy show.
Actually, I was thinking about this earlier today. So one of the things the difference between men and women, and anybody who says men and women are the same is crazy, is that, women, we sit around and we go, I just wish he knew. I wish he knew. And he doesn't love me because he doesn't know what I want. And this comes down to even like doing the dishes. They're like, what, doesn't he know I want him to do the dishes? Well, no, he doesn't. He's watching TV. He doesn't know you want him to do dishes, but he's dang happy to do the dishes if you just say, hey, honey, I really would like you to do the dishes tonight.
Right.
I think the same thing comes up to sex. We are sitting there like, well, I really wish he'd move to the left, but I'll just sit here and wait.
Right.
Well, he's not moving to the left. So,
this is in my comedy show too. I'm like, what you got to do?
I want you to say it, man. Just tell me what to do. I'll do it.
I tell everybody what you got to do is starfish. Like, be active and participating when he's doing what you want, and then when he's not doing what you want, you just starfish. And then when he starts doing what you want again, you participate and participate and participate, and then if he moves off it again, you're like, starfish.
But I think your husband needs to know that that's what starfish means.
I think they can figure it out. If you're participating, you're enjoying it. If you're not participating, he's going to be like, what did I do wrong?
Okay, that's a fair point.
But you also have to be actively participating. If you always starfish, well then
there better be a difference, right?
There be a difference.
Okay, all right. So here's our themes. We need lubrication, we need foreplay, we need communication, and don't always be a starfish.
Right.
These are our themes for the day, guys and gals.
But don't be afraid to starfish if you need to send him a message. Either
not
that or you're like a clicker training. When he gets close, you're like, click, click.
Ooh, now there's an idea. Yeah. All right. We're going to come up with some new themes. So I really appreciate you really enlightening all of us and helping us, talk about sex in a very forthright way, because I think that this is important. It's something that we should all do as women. When we sit around and we drink wine in the evening, we should also say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm dealing with in sex, and not feel embarrassed about it. We're all normal. We're all fine. We're not going to have perfect sex lives every day. We're not all having sex every day. Well, maybe some of you are.
Some people are.
Yeah. And that's fine too. Everything's fine. So
exactly. As long as you and your partner are happy and it's legal and whatever.
We're all good. Yep. Yep. So thank you. I really so much appreciate for everything that you're doing, not just today during this talk, but also every day in helping women feel better about what they're doing and what they're thinking. So can you just share how it is people can reach you? And we'll also post it in the comments, of course. And I'll also be writing a blog that I'll be putting that information in on retreatandlearn.com.
All right. If you are looking to add something to your love life, like lubricant or some other toys, you can find that at pureromancebyraylene.com. And if you want to find out more about my speaking and my comedy shows, you can find that at RayleneTaskoski.com.
Perfect. Okay. So if you could make sure you send that to me, and then I will make sure I include that in the blog. That'll be posted sometime, I don't know, this weekend or so. And we'll also post it in the comments immediately after. So,
cool. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. Thank you for the very honest, lovely questions that were posted yesterday in the poll. It really made today's conversation so much better. And if you enjoyed today's talk, definitely subscribe and on our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. We have all kinds of interesting talks coming up. I have a nature walk that we're going to do soon. I mean, we've talked about everything on here from, sex and money and death and everything in between. So definitely we need your followers. So thanks so much. And we will see you soon.
Thanks, Brianna.
Thank you.